Now we're going to continue from the one that's like animal form and function part 1. We'll just part 2 with types of tissues. Alright, it's all magically disappeared now. Okay, so the first type of tissue we're going to talk about is epithelial tissue. And these are going to occur as sheets of cells, cover inside the organs, lines the organs, and covers your outside. They're closely packed with tight junctions, and they act as barriers against mechanical energy, pathogens, and fluid loss. So, you see all these lovely pictures around this wolf. First we have simple, hang on, grab a pen. Simple squamous. And simple squamous epithelium is a single layer. It's thin, it's leaky, it's used for exchange of materials by diffusion, and it lines your blood vessels and air sacs of your lungs, where diffusion is going to occur. Then you have next to it simple columnar. And these figures are in your book. Simple columnar epithelium is large brick-shaped cells. They're found where absorption is important. They line your intestines, secreting digestive enzymes and absorbing nutrients. And then you have cuboidal. Cuboidal are dice-shaped. Specialized for secretion, and they make up your kidney tubules and glands like your thyroid and your salivary glands. Then over here you have pseudo stratified, all one layer, stratified columnar. Remember, pseudo means false, so it looks like stratified columnar. It's not. It's a single layer of varying height. If you look in your book, there's little hair-like projections coming off of this in a much smaller scale than what I'm drawing. And these ciliated pseudostratified cells form mucous membranes, like those in your upper respiratory tract, that those little cilia are going to weigh foreign debris into your mucus, move it down. Keep trash out of your lungs, hopefully. Then up top, we're going to have stratified squamous. And this is a multi-layered cell. It regenerates rapidly. Here at the base, at the basal lamina, is where the old cells, or new cells are formed and old cells are pushed up and then eventually sloughed off. And these are things that take a lot of abrasion, like your skin, linings of your mouth. Next up is connective tissue. These are sparse cells in an extracellular matrix. They hold many tissues and organs in place. You have things like fibroblasts. Fibroblast. Which secrete fiber proteins and are numerous cells in the matrix. And you have macrophages. And macrophages engulf foreign particles and cell debris by phagocytosis. And you have 3 types of connective tissue fibers. You have, let's see if I can write collagen, collagen. These are for strength and flexibility. Then you have reticular, which join connective tissues to adjacent tissues, and you have elastic. They make tissues elastic. You have 6 types. Here's your lovely pictures around this knee. Very hairy knee. You have loose connective tissue. It is the most widespread connective tissue in vertebrates. It binds epithelium to underlying tissues, holds organs in place. It's made up of a loose weave of fibers. It includes all 3 types I listed here, and it's found in the skin and throughout the body. Then you have fibrous connective tissue. Fibrous connective tissue is dense with collagen fibers. It's found in tendons, which connect bone to muscle, and ligaments that connect bone to bone. Then you have adipose. Adipose tissue is specialized loose connective tissue that stores fat and adipose cells throughout its matrix. It's to pad and insulate the body. It stores fuel as fat molecules. And each adipose cell has a fat droplet that shrinks and swells as fat is stored or used, which I guess should be opposite. It shrinks as it's used and it swells as it's stored. Then you have bone here. And bone is mineralized connective tissue. It's made up of osteoblasts, which are bone-forming cells that deposit in collagen. Then calcium phosphate magnesium ions combine into hard mineral within the matrix. Microscopic structure of bone, which you can see here, is made up of repeating osteons. Each osteon has concentric layers deposited under around a central canal. You can see that's the dark spot. The central canal contains blood vessels and nerves. Then we have cartilage. Cartilage contains collagenous fibers embedded in a rubbery protein carbohydrate complex, called chondroitin sulfate. It's made up of chondrocytes. I guess I should spell that. Cells that secrete collagen and chondroitin sulfate. It's a strong and flexible support material. And the skeletons of embryos, vertebrates, are made up of cartilage and then are replaced by bone as the embryo develops. Some cartilage remains in your joints and in between your vertebrae. And then last connective tissue here. Hang on, I've got to adjust my fancy stylus here. The last connective tissue is bone. Blood. We already did bone. Blood has a liquid extracellular matrix called plasma. Plasma consists of water, salts, and proteins. Blood is made up of red blood cells called erythrocytes. Remember, cytes means cells. Their job is to carry oxygen, and they're pretty much all these things. Then you're going to have white blood cells, which look weird. There's lots of types. We're going to talk about leukocytes. They are for defense. And then you have platelets. And I've run out of room to write. Platelets, which are cell fragments that help in clotting. Muscle is tissue that's responsible for nearly all types of body movements. All muscle cells consist of filaments made of actin and myosin, which work together to make cells contract. You have three main types here. Smooth, which you find in involuntary. We're just going to call it involuntary. Which lack striations. These stripes here are striations. So smooth is going to lack striations. It's found in the walls of the digestive tract, urinary bladder, arteries, and other organs. It's responsible for involuntary body activities like your stomach churning and your constriction of your arteries. Skeletal muscle is responsible for voluntary movements. It's attached to bones by tendons. It consists of bundles of long cells called muscle fibers. Skeletal muscle fibers form from a fusion of cells, and that's what gives you that striated appearance and your multiple nuclei that are controlling these cells. You have things called sarcomeres. Sarcomeres. These are the contractile units that give you that striped appearance again. And when you build muscle, that increases the size of your muscle fibers, but not the number of your muscle fibers. That is fixed. Then you have cardiac muscle, which is in your heart. And it forms the contractile wall of the heart. It's striated like skeletal muscle and has some of the same contractile properties. But the fibers are interconnected via intercalated discs, which relay signals from cell to cell and help synchronize the heart contraction. And then you have the nervous system, or nervous tissue, which is responsible for receiving, processing, and transmitting information. It contains neurons called nerve cells, which transmit impulses. And then these are neurons, or that's a neuron. And then you have glial cells, or just glia. Glia, sorry. Many animals have a brain, which is a concentration of nervous tissue that acts as information processing center. Your neurons are your basic unit of the nervous system. They receive impulses from other neurons via these dendrites. And that's surrounding a cell body. And then that passes on to other cells via this axon, which will butt up to other dendrites. That's not supposed to look like Batman, but whatever. Glial help to nourish, insulate, and replenish neurons, and sometimes moderate neuron function. All levels need to work together. Like if you think of a seal under a long dive, it's got to slow its heart rate, collapse lungs, lower body temperature, and still propel its back flippers. You have two systems at work here that are responsible for control of your body. Your endocrine system, which is all of your hormones, which are signals that are released in one part of the body, have an effect in another part. they are only going to target specific cells that have receptors for those particular hormones. It's relatively slow working, and the effects are long lasting. The endocrine system is well suited for coordinating the gradual changes affecting the whole body: growth, development, reproduction, metabolism, and digestion. The nervous system is going to transmit impulses between specific locations in the body. You have 4 types of cells that can receive impulses: muscle, neurons, endocrine cells, exocrine cells. Passing from cell to cell is a short distance, and you have a chemical release there that lets that happen. Transmission is fast, and it takes only fractions of a second and lasts only fractions of a second, and it's especially suited for fast locomotion behavior, an immediate and rapid response to the environment. That is the end of part 1 and 2. We'll see if this one uploads.